think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Rosebud, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Music underneath this part. So. Hello. Where am I looking? I'll go look here. Hello and welcome to the Video Lineup Podcast starring me, Thomas Barnes, and
Nick.
You're just Nick. You're like, sit back.
Just Nick.
Okay, my whole name is out in the world now. This week number
3.
Yeah, three. I occasionally my very bad French comes out.
Yeah.
It is trois. That's I don't know. We are doing The Godfather, 1972, Francis Ford Coppola. Well deserved of being this high on the list, but we're skipping ahead to my opinion part. So we actually wrote a list of the things we're going to work through here to try and keep this podcast interesting for all audiences. Yeah. So I'll do the synopsis.
Yeah, I don't think I'll do it justice.
Well, maybe we should make it so it's nice, low pressure on all of us, and we're just going to go straight into what does IMDb say the synopsis of this movie is? Because by now, I mean, this is a gangster movie. It is an epic of the gangster genre. It took the gangster from being like some sort of, two-bit hoodlum with a Tommy gun, to like a deep drama. And it goes over the space of 10 years. So it's Don Vito Corleone, head of a mafia family, decides to hand over his empire to his younger son, Michael. However, his decision unintentionally puts the lives of his loved one in grave danger. Do I think that's a good synopsis? I don't think it is a good synopsis. It's one of the slight things. It's like chapter 10 of 12 chapters. This is imagine if like one of those 10-part dramas on HBO, was made into a 1 3-hour movie, and it's generational. It is over, it involves, alluding to like world events. It's around the world.
I felt like I was just dropped into a point in time to watch the life of a mafia family, and then you're pulled out as it finishes. And it's It
kind of felt like they just left you there, plonk.
Yeah.
but I do need to preface any conversation I have with. I may sneeze at any point because we've delayed recording this because I have been having sneezing fits.
So fever season.
Yeah, I'll try not to sniff next to the microphone. But we couldn't not talk about this movie. What did you think of it, Nick?
If I'm honest, I hadn't seen it before this time. And I'd heard it alluded to in You've Got Mail. And I always just thought it'd be a gangster movie, but just extremely violent, which I'm not really into. But there's so much more to the story than that. So I really enjoyed it. I kind of view it as almost a romantic comedy for men.
Comedy?
Kind of. Because
I know.
I don't know. You're sort of
you mean like it plays the
parts. Obviously there's the violence scattered throughout, but that doesn't dominate the film for me. It's sort of taking you on this journey, and I find you are drawn into the story, and you care about the characters, and there's some funny moments.
I see what you mean. Do you mean like it played the role of what it does for maybe men what a romantic comedy might do for women, or is that what you...
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And I feel like, because I've watched You've Got Mail a few times.
Yeah, me too. I like that movie.
And I just the music and the way the story was told, it's like, there's some strange similarities to that film, to The Godfather.
Yeah, okay. I see. Well, there's family in it, and You've Got Mail, but like just so we can hopefully engage someone who has never seen The Godfather and has sort of heard about it, talked about, yeah. Who's heard of it, but has sort of stayed away. It's this old movie. This is like, I know we've said it. I mean, we're starting at number 1. All of these movies are going to be great. Yeah. But this is truly the closest thing to something that the modern day television watching person will absolutely get enthralled by. Yeah. In my opinion. It does it compacts. There's no way that they would have made this movie now. Absolutely no way. I guarantee you it would be a top #1 hit of 10-part TV series just for Godfather 1, not Godfather 2 or 3. That'd be season 1 of a massive $200 million budget, drama. People would absolutely eat it up, and nothing about its execution would change. It's just you would get more of the stories because a lot of the book is left out. I've never read the book, but I'm aware that a lot of the book is left out. But what they do in this movie is they just put little plop here. Plop's not a great word or cinematic word. Boink here. Little flavors of like, this is a really rich world. But
that's I'm like, what thought process went into we're going to film it this way? Because it just felt like they were filming reality.
Yeah.
And they were just following the life of a family along, and we're just getting to watch it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how someone would direct that and film it.
Well, if you're interested in finding out, did you watch The Offer on Paramount Plus?
No, I didn't. No.
So Albert S. Ruddy, who was the main producer of this movie, I think he's Canadian. He stepped in to produce this movie, and there is a TV, and it's a really interesting. I'm not going to go into the things I remember about it now because it's a really long and really interesting story on its own. But they made a TV series called The Offer, all about the making of this movie, and it's Miles Teller plays Albert Ruddy, and there's heaps of great actors in it. But yeah, it was a complicated production, and it was, at no point was it a sure thing. The book was a huge hit, but people weren't sure if this movie was going to be amazing, as far as I'm aware.
Yep.
But we should make clear that this movie is what I said at the beginning, the thing that took gangsters from being, I'll get you, you son of a bitch, bang, 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 that sort of thing, to what they became. I mean, the peak of it really would be The Sopranos, how people saw, that's literally, I mean, I've never seen The Sopranos, but I know that it is that sort of drama, and everyone ate it up, and it was HBO and all those sorts of things. And that was only possible because this movie took the gangster genre and turned it into something that you sort of, throughout the whole movie, you see them taking this disgusting criminal life that is not honorable, and they are representing these men as what they perceive themselves to be, they're trying to be honorable men. And I think that's what it focuses in on that. It's like it's almost not even that interested, even though there are plenty of shootout scenes. You can't have a big gangster epic without it. It feels like they're trying to focus on, well, not trying to, and it doesn't feel like, they literally are focusing on the stories inside their own minds and of honor, of family, of which hard work,
there's some good values in there.
Yeah.
And one of the first scenes, the wedding scene, you just, there's a lot of joy and positive things about that life and that community. But then you sort of get a glimpse of the darkness in the background. So
yeah, well, I mean, sorry, I'm going to give myself a weird eye scratch here. Oh, that feels good. Like a dog. So my first note on this movie is spoiler alert, we're going to probably go into some spoilers. We're not going to destroy it. Trust me, whatever we say happens in this movie, we'll avoid major spoilers, but you still will thoroughly enjoy it. This movie starts in the icon. I mean, it's on the front cover of the DVDs. Basically, it's Marlon Brando's Don Corleone with the sort of the red flower or whatever he's got. He's wearing this tuxedo. It's the day of his daughter. It's the day of my daughter's wedding. You come to me. Anyway, he's sat in his dark, dimly lit room. The cinematographer Gordon Willis was dubbed the Prince of Darkness. I don't know if he was dubbed that before this but because the whole movie the whole scene is just dark. It's like you're in the pit of hell.
But the contrast of that to the wedding outside, the sun is shining.
Yeah, they contrast it. He goes out there and he goes back in. People are coming to him because he can ask a Sicilian things, and they have to grant a request on the day of their daughter's wedding. They kind of got him over a barrel, and this guy is asking for something because someone has dishonored his daughter and beaten the crap out of her, and as far as I think he says he kept her on her, so she wasn't raped, but she was.
Well, she
violent.
was resisting. They were trying to.
Okay, so maybe she was, yeah. I was, that's the hopeful in me that was hoping that, that's what it meant. But obviously it's dark. He's telling this dark story, and it doesn't even start on Don Corleone. It starts on this guy, Bona. There's a lot of Italian names in this movie. Buonasera. That's a Buonasera because he said so. Anyway, and he, nothing's left, but he tells his story and it stays on him and just moves out. It's all just darkness. And then when you go outside, it's bing, ding, 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 ding. It's like a jump scare in a horror movie. Yeah. And then you're brought to the world. Everyone's full of joy and they're dancing and it's silly. Yeah. And you see this contrast is always played out in the entire movie. It's played out visually with the way things are lit, and it's played out thematically. Later on I made a note. Bless you. This is the sneeze cast. Yeah, here I am going. Sorry, we might have to re-record this for a third time. The spoiler alert, we've already recorded this ages ago. We were both extremely tired and didn't get as deep as we'd like. But anyway, I'm carrying on. But there's quite a few moments like that. I'll mention another one later when we get up to it. But the themes in this movie are really, really powerful and really clever and long lasting. They've it's like Star Wars,
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating. Like what his son, Michael, who is a war hero, you relate to him, or you want to relate to him as being that good guy that you could be, but then seeing his journey into darkness, and you sort of go, oh, that could happen to any of us given the right circumstances. So.
Yeah, I read a few things that said that this movie is kind of criticized for glorifying mobsters. Like I said, it's taken what was like a figure of cartoonish villainy that would be easy to have in its place, and it made it a somewhat aspirational figure, and that touches on something else. I think was some of the problems with movies, but we'll come back to that. But you see this thing with Michael where you're watching the movie and you sort of, like you say, you see he's kind of like the hero. You can see maybe this is a good way you can connect into the life. And he kind of is under the persuasion he might be able to do that too. Yeah. But the movie tells you he can't. Yeah. He can't. And he tries to, every time something to do with his family, even like some news. So his father, something happens to his father and he calls to find out what's going on. And in that moment, he goes from holding his girlfriend's arm and laughing with her at Christmas time into moments later, shutting her out, even visually. He goes goes into a telephone booth, shuts the door behind him. It's not like the two of them are engaged, but concerned about the father. It is anything to do with his family, shuts out the outside world. Yeah. And that's a good thing because he loves his family and his family are close, but it's a bad thing because his family are kind of the devil.
Yeah. And it's interesting how Don Corleone wanted, almost something better for his son where he would enter into politics. Not that that's necessarily better, but something where his reputation would be a bit cleaner than what the rest of the family's like.
Yeah, you can see that it's like they're suggesting even in this movie, because it made me think of so there's a movie Wall Street, and Gordon Gekko says in a speech, it's like greed is good. And Gordon Gekko is not necessarily meant to be a good guy, but apparently people would come up to Oliver Stone, who directed that movie, who were like Wall Street people, and they were like, greed is good. And he's like, no, I think you missed the point of the movie. He's the bad guy. And the same thing was with The Wolf of Wall Street. When I saw that at the cinemas, like this Jordan Belfort dude, his antics, even from himself now talking about it seems, were not aspirational, way over drugs and sex and, all that sort of stuff, not the rock and roll, but ripping people off. He ended up going to jail and all that sort of stuff. And Scorsese made a movie that felt like he had to show all of that, but it was laughable, And to a certain extent in the cinema I was in, it felt like they didn't get the point. This guy's still their hero, even though he's clearly not a good guy. Yeah. I mean, I'm reading into people's reaction. And that's kind of what it feels like with this movie, that people who maybe thought it would glorify the gangster genre, maybe, and it definitely would have, because there is elements of it that go, oh, very romantic, epic, that they miss the point. It's really showing you that this, no matter what this Don Vito Corleone wanted for his family, this life will eat them all alive.
Yeah.
It'll all destroy all of them. There is no getting away from it.
But you see that in his demeanor as his character progresses. He becomes darker and more serious, and you can tell it's consumed him. And I don't know what type of person would go, oh, that's a good thing. That's what I want to emulate.
Yeah. I wonder, like, it's the theme of, is power really healthy? Like, is that sort of a theme? It feels like that. This is seen where all the powerful men are sitting at a table, and several of them are lost sons in this war that all of the mafias have had, and it's the various families have had. And it's just, they're all sad. They're all figures that you should feel sorry for. At the beginning, someone takes a photo of Barzini, the guy, one of the mob bosses, and they ordered the photographer over, and how dare he take a photo. It's like a tiny moment, but in that moment, boom, you know who this dude is. A, he's important. B, he's dangerous. C, he's extremely powerful. And he just rips up the old style glass plate, whatever the dude had, threw it on the ground, sort of looks at the photographer like he's a bug.
Yeah.
And you realize that, well, it didn't end up well for all those guys. Spoiler alert, gangster people get hurt. And they might be wealthy and powerful, but they're really sad.
You're kind of like, what is it all for? And
Meanwhile, photographer goes home to his family and cried one night because someone ripped one of his camera things apart, and then probably lived a long, healthy life.
But I feel like you can translate it into life. Like, I don't want to get into politics, but you see these egos of people who get into power and it consumes them. And it's this wrestle between different egos, and they try, and it's kind of survival of the fittest until you're no longer the strongest. And
then they start, dragging you before the Congress, or, chop your head off in the public square.
Yeah, it's like this story repeats itself throughout history, I think, again and again, and we don't tend to learn from it. And so I think we need to see these stories in movies to go, no, that's not the path we want to follow.
Yeah, I really would like to watch The Sopranos. I know several friends who've watched The Sopranos, and they said it's really good, but I get the impression that that's part of what it is. Like, it's like the downfall of the mob, maybe. Yeah. It's probably one of the two listeners that has hopefully watched The Sopranos. And I've never seen it, but I have. You sort of, I remember the first time I watched this movie, I was probably like 18 or something. And I was able to watch it in one sitting because I could just plonk it on and not fall asleep. Because that's the other thing. I'm falling asleep in this movie because got kids and getting older, and you only managed to get it on at like 8:30, and it's a nearly 3-hour movie. Yeah. But don't be turned off. I think the people who are listening, who are maybe thinking about watching this movie, don't be turned off by 3 hours. It has plenty. It does function that you could go, oh, let's stop it at this point, and it'll be totally fine. It's not like you have to wait. There's no moment. It doesn't flow all the way through 3 hours. It actually, it flows, but it doesn't. It has clear markers where you could pause it. So, for instance, I turned it off this time last night at when he goes to Italy. Yep. And that was a clear point. It was like at which, because this is spanning 10 years, 1945 to 1955 is my understanding. Is the window. Right. So we should go. We've touched on our thematic approach to this movie, what we feel. Yep. Our feelings. We've talked about our feelings.
I feel so much better now.
Yeah. I almost don't care about talking about the movie anymore. I just want to keep talking about my feelings about, meaning of life and power and that. This movie was made for, I think it was $12 million, or did I say $7 million?
I thought you said 6.
Oh, do I hear 5? No, I said 7.
7.
7. So it made in 1972 $270 million. That's massive. It was for a short period of time. It was the highest grossing movie of all time.
It's amazing.
And I think it was 26 weeks. It had 1 week where it wasn't number one.
Yeah.
It was dethroned by some random movie with Goldie Hawn. It wasn't even like a movie that I'd heard of before.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's great. Plenty of people worked on hard on that movie and it dethroned The Godfather for 1 week. But it hasn't and then it went straight back for another 3 more weeks. It was number one.
Amazing.
So people kept going to see this movie. That should tell you something, right? That should tell you something. 1972, 50 years ago, last year, 51 years ago, this movie drew tons of people in to see it and has stayed the test of time. I'm begging you, if you have not seen The Godfather, please watch The Godfather. It is so good. I'm giving this movie. Can we skip to our ratings just quickly so we can?
Yeah.
What do you want to go for? We'll give it what we discussed earlier that we're going to go with horses' heads.
Horses' heads. That's another.
That's a reference to nothing in particular.
I'd give it 5 out of 5 horses' heads. I love this type of storytelling where you can you don't really know you're watching a movie in a way. You forget and you're just dropped into this story and then it finishes and you're just like, huh.
Yeah.
It's a pleasurable experience, even though it's a long movie. I felt like it was all necessary and just the way they crafted the story, it was poetic.
Yeah, I heartily agree. Heartily agree on 5 horses' heads out of 5 horses' heads.
You wouldn't want 4.5, would you? That's a bit brutal.
What part of that? Slice straight down the middle, like a dissection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It is the type of. This is what I keep. Anyone I meet, I bring The Godfather up as a recommended movie across. I don't go, oh, you've got to see Citizen Kane because that's pretty. Not conceited, it's something. The word when you just say to people, random people we meet it about. But absolutely, I recommend this movie. 5 out of 5 horses' heads. It does feel like that. It feels like you. Okay, so we got to touch on a specific scene. There's a hospital scene where a character is going to the hospital to try and work out. Find someone and it gets there and things aren't as safe as they. I'm trying to it's movie's 51 years old. Yeah. Okay, stuff it.
Who?
So Don Corleone gets shot and he's in the hospital and Michael goes to visit him. And that scene, that is my favorite sequence. Okay, some of this movie I don't like anymore. I don't enjoy rewatching the scenes. Yeah. In fact, this time around I scrubbed through 2 scenes in particular.
Because you feel uncomfortable or you just don't think they're well shot? Or
No. I just don't like them. They're necessary, but in a 3 and a bit hour movie that I watched like only 2 months ago,
it's the Reader's Digest version.
Well, I'll be honest, and you'll know when you watch the movie. There's a scene where it's Connie. She's played by the director's sister. She's in.
I have to say, I think she was the only actor. I was like, oh,
yeah,
a bit jarring at times.
Well, she's very loud. Actually, it's very opposite to what she is in Rocky from memory. Oh, it'll come to me. She's Jason Schwartzman's mum. Talia Shire is the actress in it. Yeah, I see. You said she was the one that you didn't love.
I suppose moments, just the way I felt like it was similar to The Shining. You know when
I know
the lady was being chased by Jack Nicholson. It's kind of this jarring. Who knows how you'd act in that circumstance? But there's a similar scene in this movie.
Is that the one where she's getting the shit kicked out of her?
Yeah.
Sorry, she's getting beat up.
Yeah.
I don't like domestic violence scenes. I just don't like.
Yeah. I love them.
Yeah. I gotta say, I love those, especially when they're beating up kids. It's awful. I don't like watching it, but it's necessary. It goes on for quite a while.
Yeah.
That's the one scene that I scrub through each time because I'm like, nothing uniquely important happens in it. And if I had to make edits, I'd make that scene shorter. But I guess at the same time, I watch it and you go, this is connected to the thing that happens not long after that.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, I'd just forgotten for some reason how important it was what happens to her and she's beaten up. because it relates to what's going to happen next, and that relates to what's going to happen next. But for some reason, I was like, why do they have this scene? It feels like gratuitous. And then immediately, as soon as I scrubbed through, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But everything's got to be there. But that would be the spot that I'd cut.
It adds so much to the complexity because, later on when he's taken out.
When Sonny Corleone is shot because he went to try and help his sister, because we are now deeply in spoilers.
She's devastated and angry that he's been killed, and he was a horrible man. So, well, I don't know. There might be some nice parts to his character, but we didn't get to see them. We're painted this picture that he's just a horrible person. He's abusive. He's power hungry. You could be talking about any of them at this point. I can't remember his name.
Carlo.
Yeah.
Her husband. Yeah. So I thought you were talking about Sonny because he's also that. He's terrible. These aren't good people. Like, let's read through the character list. Like Don Corleone is the one that is the most likable, and I think it's because he's been through a lot and he's seeing that this isn't good.
Yeah.
He seems put off by getting into the drug business.
Yeah. And he doesn't tend to do the dirty work, so he's like a grandpa figure in a way.
Yeah, he doesn't do the dirty work, and he is like a grandpa figure. He actually dresses a lot like my grandpa used to dress.
Yeah.
Michael Corleone starts off like the best side of Don Corleone.
Yeah.
Sonny, not good. Clemenza, fat Clemenza.
Yeah.
I mean, he kills people, but essentially nice seeming guy. Okay, so the most virtuous seeming dude, but still aids and abets all these. We can't really rank these people. They're all doing bad things. But the police captain is shown as being bad. All the other gangsters are all bad.
I could be wrong, but I find a lot of the characters that are portrayed as bad to begin with don't seem to be intelligent. Like, they seem to be quite hot-headed, and they're almost just reacting to circumstances, whereas Michael seems to be the intelligent one, and it's almost like he ends up being scarier because he's
it's calculating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what have I got? Have you got any other notes? Like, what is a scene you didn't like in this movie?
I think, as I said earlier, I don't think I'd cut anything out. I think it's all necessary. The length is necessary. I watched, it was months ago, a director's commentary on this, and he talked about trying to cut it down, but it sort of took the heart and soul out of the story.
Yep.
And I really think that's what would happen if you cut any scenes. I think it would really affect it.
Yeah, because even when Michael goes to Italy, even though nothing that happens in Italy ends up dramatically plot-wise affecting what happens in the movie, it affects Michael.
Yeah.
And it's like a fairy tale. I wrote down that the Italy sequence feels like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Michael's always on this sort of seesaw of like, will he be a mobster and bad and into bad things, or will he go with Kay, who was Diane Keaton, and have this other life that his dad has wanted for him. He's a war hero at the beginning of the movie, and he seems to have shut his family out. Like, they're not important. Kay, she doesn't know. They've obviously been going out for a bit of time, and he's brought her to his sister's wedding. He turns up late. He's not really attached to this family, so you can tell he knows that this isn't right for him. But every single time anything that happens to do with his family, like I said, he shuts her out, and then he realizes that the only way he can, like, what is he ends up, because he kills not Tatalia, he kills the police captain McCluskey.
Yeah,
and
starts with S, I think.
How is there so many flippin' names in this movie?
Yeah.
Okay, you might need to keep notes while you're watching the movie. You won't really. Salazzo,
yes.
Because Salazzo is this other guy who wants to get
great character.
Great character, really good character. And he says, I can take him out. Got a personal attachment because the police captain punched him in the face, and I think he realizes the danger that his dad's in.
Yeah.
And he thinks I'll step in. And so he steps in and he ends up having to run to Italy. He's killed a couple of people, so he has to disappear to Italy for what seems like a year or more. And it functions sort of like he goes there, he's sort of covered in sin. He's killed these people, metaphorically. And it's like he tries to absolve himself and return to the life he wanted to have with Kay before he got embezzled abroad with his family, with this Italian girl, and everything's great and everything's awesome. And then all of a sudden news comes of what's happened to his brother. And then it sort of unravels. And even to the point that as he finds out about his brother, that he get one of those nice sharp moments of the horn. She honks the horn, Apollonia or whatever. She doesn't know what he's being told outside the car. And it's like, it's like a jump scare moment.
Yep.
Because those two worlds just can't work together.
No.
Yeah. And then obviously what happens in Italy transpires, and then
What happens in Italy stays in Italy.
Yeah, what happens in Italy stays in Italy. And he realizes he can't. It's almost like he has to come to terms over this series of the course of the first 2 hours of the movie that he can't be the person he wants to be. It's fated. It's a good movie about the idea of fate too. He is fated to be this evil gangster.
And he comes back and he's surrendered to the lifestyle.
Yeah. And he's a different man when he comes back to Kay.
Yeah.
It's not that he's different. He's coming to her differently too. He wants to acquire her. Now, it feels like he's trying to acquire her so that he can be the man he needs to be for the gangsters. It's not the other way around.
And I found it quite powerful at the end, or towards the end, where he says to her, "You can ask me one time and I'll tell you the truth." And he tells her a bold-faced lie, and you're like, I found that, that sort of punched me a bit. You think it's just a lie, but that it shows how he's changed, and he'll just say whatever he needs to.
Yeah, he's cold.
Yeah. So
he was never particularly warm, but he was trying to not be what he became.
Yep.
And it's like he just got swallowed up by the gravity of fate pulling him in that way, and yeah, just so many things. It's a tragic character,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Shakespearean thing that's I should know.
Yeah.
What other notes do I have here? We've got this is a really good movie. We've given it our rating. Oh, I like the way Coppola puts pins on scenes. It feels like the way like an example is when Sonny is beating the crap out of Carlo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you get this lingering long shot of him just kicking him so many times.
And then missing once.
Yeah, the one swing that completely misses and
And then you hear a psh.
Yeah. And then it cuts to a close up of it, and then he kicks him one last time and he falls into the gutter.
Yeah.
And then the scene's over. I liked how it was shot too. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, the scenes just sort of flow really nicely, and then he doesn't just like cut them. Each moment gets. This is what I mean by it. You can pause it at any moment. It feels like it's the end of a chapter.
Yeah.
It is a movie that feels like a book. Would that be right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're just really singing this movie's praises. We're gonna have something we've got to disagree on. It's just too good. It's number 3 in movies, top movies of all time. I would easily say that I like this movie better than Casablanca and Citizen Kane.
I think so. I think it just I can't pinpoint what it is that there's certain movies where I just like, they're a pleasure to watch, and this ticked all those boxes.
Yeah. It's boring to discuss it because it's like, yeah, I like it too.
Yeah.
What do you like about it? Everything? Okay, cool. You want to talk about anything else?
Yeah. I would just like to see some current directors go back to this way of storytelling. I don't know what it is, whether it was the way it was directed, produced, the book. Did the book just lend itself to sort of creating a wonderful film? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it certainly seems like they worked really hard, and he is a really good director.
Well, it's just like it's an organic film. Like so many scenes, you're like, I don't think you could script this. It's almost like he's given the actors permission. You're like, we kind of want to communicate this, and they're just chatting, and it just plays out.
Yeah, especially scenes with Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
Who I remember being disappointed that he wasn't in more of the movie when I watched it the first time, because it's called The Godfather. He's the Godfather. He's this big celebrated actor. He's kind of like a supporting character in this movie. But he is very important, and he really commands the screen. Like you really, if you're just washing dishes, chatting to mates on Instagram, trying to watch this movie, you might still be attracted to watching him when he's in scenes, because he's so good. And he's really, especially the scene with all the gangsters around the table, he just really commands that table. And there's people around the table, there's people standing up.
Yeah.
And he runs it. Like, not because that's what he's supposed to do, because the character does that. He is that person.
Yeah.
Like there's just some actors that you just go, I can't see him acting.
And the way he speaks, which I thought was quite a bold move, you can't, if you are sort of, casually watching it, I think you'll miss a lot of the dialogue. Whereas you like when he's speaking, you have to listen intently, because it's husky. He's obviously got something.
Yeah, he got
in his mouth.
Implants. I think when he first went to do it, they balled up like tissue paper or cotton buds or something, and he shoved them in. He thought of the guy like a bulldog.
Yeah, and he's kind of mumbling, but you're like, he commands your attention.
He's so good.
And I just thought that was really powerful. So.
Well, we know there's a lot of actors in this movie there's a lot of characters, lots of characters, but there are a lot of actors that this sort of was a launching pad. And admittedly, these actors, if this is a podcast in 1995, not only will we not have any distribution platform because it wouldn't have been invented yet, but people would probably have greater recognition, maybe younger audiences because we've, our millions of people in their early 20s that listen to the two of us chat. Yeah. Because Brando was still around. Pacino was at the height of his game in like the 90s. Didn't he get Scent of a Woman Oscar in like 1993 or something?
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, I am probably.
Yeah.
James Caan, rest in peace. Not that the others shouldn't rest in peace, but he just died last year, I think. Robert Duvall. Who else? Diane Keaton.
Yep.
John Cazale. Yeah, he went on to other great things, but he didn't live past the 70s. I'm just trying to see. That's pretty much it. And then you've got Sofia Coppola, in her much celebrated role as the infant being baptized at the end.
Really?
Yeah, the movie director.
There you go.
That was Francis Ford Coppola. Is Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. So
I did one tidbit, which I think was in the commentary. Francis was saying he always opened up auditions to the public just in case they'd find someone which was just perfect for a role. And who was the tall one guy in particular? Tessio, who I thought did an extraordinary job. He'd never acted before.
Abe Vigoda.
Yeah.
How do I know Abe? Why do I know that his name's Abe Vigoda? I've probably scrolled through this so many times. Abe Vigoda, yeah, Sal Tessio. Yeah, he is good.
Yeah, like so many of the characters in there were, I think, just perfect for their role.
There's no bad.
No.
Everyone feels right. Even like at the beginning of the movie, is it Johnny or something? I should know the name. Not Johnny Fontaine. Paulie. $30,000 in unmarked bills in the silk purse. Oh, mamma mia, for someone else's wedding.
Yeah.
Maybe I wish it was 1971 and I was being I read in the paper I could play Paulie.
Yeah,
my little.
Yeah.
Even that guy, like he's just, there's so many people just pop in and pop out and they're just perfect for it. That's what makes the world feel really rich. The movie producer, who's an awful person in his own right, but he's like a mirror of the Godfather, right?
Yeah.
Because the story that he mirrors to why he doesn't want to do what the gangsters are asking him to do mirrors exactly the story that the gangsters thought was virtuous to solve at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
They're just hypocritical and he's just so brilliant at it. Yeah, so it was very good. So a lot of these people went on to great things, but obviously it reinvigorated the gangster genre. 1974. Very soon after, I don't know what number it is that we'll be getting up to in the AFI Top 100, but pretty soon it is Godfather Part 2. Yeah, have a little look. Reinvigorated Marlon Brando's career. He went on to...
Yeah, because he was struggling, wasn't he?
I don't
or movie fans didn't like what he was starring in, I think, for a while.
Yeah, do you know? Well, I don't know. I just know
I
that he
think that, again, in the commentary, I think it was something like that. He was just sort of struggling and not finding particular roles that were connecting with audiences. So.
Yeah, well, after this, he got Superman. I think he got paid like $1 million for.
He did Superman.
He is Kal-El's dad in the first Superman movie. Yeah, what else did he go on to do? He went Last Tango in Paris.
I thought you were saying he played Superman after this role.
Yeah, just in a home movie.
Yeah.
No. I'm trying to find our list that we're working off because we're working off the AFI Top 100. We didn't mention that at the top of the podcast, but this is we're working our way through the AFI Top 100, the old movie version. For some reason, I'm only finding the new movie version, so we might have to just update and just do the new movie version, but learn more. Yeah, it looks like it. We'll find it. Okay, but it says that number 5 is Lawrence of Arabia, not Wizard of Oz. So maybe I've been reading it wrong. But
I thought it was Gone with the Wind was next. I printed the
Gone with the Wind is next, but
yeah.
I'm just trying to see where Godfather Part 2 is. How's Godfather Part 2 not? Bloody hell, I'm up to like number 3. Godfather Part 2 is 32.
Do you think there's similar movies out there that people would enjoy?
Okay, good point. Yeah, we did write that down. I haven't seen Casino. I really want to watch Casino. That's Scorsese. It's gangsters. So definitely that.
Yep.
If you like this movie, you'll like Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
I liked Godfather Part 3. I know it's not as highly rated as...
I haven't seen them, so don't spoil it.
So I don't actually remember much that happened in Godfather Part 3.
Yep.
But I did like it. So there was that.
I'll say if you like Godfather, what you've got now.
Yeah. That's about... He says something about going to the mattresses, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, You've Got Mail is good. What is a movie that we like? We should probably have thought about this beyond
just off the
cuff.
fly.
Our cinema knowledge is not as deep when it comes to parallel movie experiences. I genuinely think if you enjoy, like I said earlier, all those HBO long sort of series, definitely check out The Offer. That's Paramount Plus. Not only it's a great movie, and if you don't know much about The Godfather, it is a great TV show. Even if you don't know much about The Godfather, and it's like 10 episodes, 1 hour a piece or something. Yeah. Definitely, you'll enjoy that. That's a really good, really good show. I think there's just all those. I think it's more about the epic movies. You might really start to get an understanding of that a 3-hour movie has a lot to offer.
And I'm finding, like, we've only watched a handful of movies so far, but a lot of these movies almost didn't make it.
Yep.
You know, it seems like in the struggle, it's like a diamond was produced at the end of it, and that sort of played a part. You wonder if the process of creating the film actually, how that affects the end product.
Yeah, so there's a scene, like for a start, also Star Wars fame, George Lucas, he was involved in this movie as well as an assistant editor because he worked closely with Francis Ford Coppola.
Yep.
So like to your point, there's a scene, my favorite scene, which is the hospital scene where he was struggling to make it feel the way he wanted to make it feel, and George Lucas suggested using shots of hallways and empty scenes before the actors had walked in, reusing a couple seconds of footage.
Yeah.
And you see it fits into the edit. He also makes a lot of the, you see a lot of newsreel footage cut through, you know, to tell stories of what's happened over a long period of time in a short space of the movie. He was involved in that. So there's lots of like, but I think filmmaking is problem solving, and any movie that gets finished is, for the most part, it seems, you know, up against it. The thing that I think we're in, maybe had you thinking that, is it feels like, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but it does feel like now with things that are when something is on a conveyor belt, it's like a production line.
Yeah.
Things like Marvel and DC movies, which we're probably going to rail on every single time we talk. They feel like it doesn't mean that people don't face challenges in them. It doesn't mean that they don't have issues they have to overcome, because there's plenty of brilliant filmmakers who've made really good Marvel comic book stories. I really like some of those movies, some of them. Limiting. The more they release, the less the percentage is that I like, because they probably all made the ones that I'm going to like. But they feel like they're inevitable. This movie, I think what you're saying is that it wasn't inevitable that this movie, A, was going to be made, or B, that it was going to be any good.
Yeah.
And it was even just because of financial straits that Francis Ford Coppola took the movie on as a director anyway.
And almost got fired.
Yeah, and the actors almost got fired.
Yeah.
So you've got they didn't want Pacino, they didn't want Brando. Who's someone else? I don't think James Caan's not Italian, so picking these people was real tricky.
Yep.
But it's brilliant. It all, when these things come together, that's just like
it's meant to be.
It's meant to be, yeah.
But it's I imagine studios are just trying to find a formula that's going to guarantee them a certain amount of money. So it's a big gamble for them to,
Yeah, well, I think that like they're having the writer strikes and everything right now, and the actor strikes, and they're up against one of the things they want, as far as I understand it, is rules around how AI is used. And so AI represents a challenge to a creative industry, especially when you see going on the internet, you can type in prompts and you can make your own AI art. The computer will paint things for you.
Yeah.
It feels like, no, that's the end of art that matters, because people can essentially just think of something, type it in, and the computer will write it. And if they go, oh, that's pretty close. But the thing that you won't get with that, and you won't get with these production line movies, where in actual fact, even though they might not be using AI, they're making exactly the same story, just with different actors. They look different, and they're calling their characters slightly different names, but they're making the exact same story, and they basically know that that's what they're doing.
Yep.
And that's why I think people are getting bored with them, because the Disney remakes, all this, they all just do exactly the same thing over and over again, because the studios who are, reasonably capitalist entities wanting to make money, want to minimize risk, as we all do. We want to buy an airplane ticket on a reliable airline because we want to minimize the risk. We're going to end up in the sea.
Yep.
We're minimizing risk. It's understandable, but they're minimizing risk on a large financial scale, and they want to. The problem is that they're in the game. What I'm saying is they want to the jewels, the magic is in the risk.
Yeah.
They minimize the risk. It works for a short period of time because it's going to work. Because if you tell the story and you hit these principles and these story beats, and you get good actors and good music, you'll fool the audience, or you might, just luck upon something for a short period of time. But then that'll eventually die because it's got no soul.
And I don't think you would ever create a film that would even touch any of these movies in the top 100. So
no, well, I think you could. You could make something that gets close, but they don't want to anymore. They don't want to try.
Star Wars is an interesting franchise because you look at the originals and you say they're quality films which were made in that environment where the struggle was there.
Yep.
But then you look at the modern versions which have entered into the system of sort of just churning out safe,
and you get
cutter movies.
There's a documentary called Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, which is talking about from the very late 60s until sort of the late 70s, when blockbusters and stuff came in with Jaws and Star Wars and that, even into the 80s, because Raging Bull's 1980, I think. And Raging Bull, 1980, yeah, it's number 24 on our list, so we'll get to it. That talks about the fact that studios went from these things in the 30s and 40s and 50s, which were, the Warner Brothers, but they got sold to corporate entities.
Yeah.
They got sold to these big businesses that had no idea what to do with them. And so they just went to these film students and they said, Mr. Lucas, Mr. Coppola, Mr. Spielberg, can you please make movies for us? And I mean, they're the three that I think of, but there's heaps of them. And that's where you get Taxi Driver and Easy Rider and Raging Bull, and eventually, The Godfather comes, because Francis Ford Coppola was part of that. I think the new Hollywood, they called them. And I think that's probably what we're going to enter into now, because this Hollywood system has gone, it's peaked. This capitalist corporate thing has made so many great franchises and people have upended it and stuff. But yeah, we're just going to go back. It's like a cycle because these stories are really, really interesting. And I think, the proof is in the pudding. People go back to this movie constantly.
But I think it's potentially coming back to writers to encourage them to get creative again and write fresh stories, not just rehashing.
Nicholas hates all the Hollywood writers that are on strike right now. And he's like, write some fresh stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right.
Well, almost like I'm a musician and I feel like the same with music a bit, where you've got people trying to repeat particular styles of music and lyrics and that sort of thing. And I think if you really want to stand out, you need to sort of go back to the more organic approach and whether it's disconnecting a bit and sort of trying to, because I feel like we're all on social media and we're becoming one. The zeitgeist is just merging where we're all talking about and repeating the same sort of message. Whereas I think if you separate yourself and disconnect a bit, hopefully some new, fresh perspectives and stories come out of that.
Yeah. Oh, a river rumbly in my tumbly. Must be hungry. Yeah, this movie's made me hungry. I was leave the gun, take the cannoli. That's how I'm feeling right now. I could really go some cannoli. But I think we probably could wrap it up there. We've talked for about 50 minutes or something. This was a good take on The Godfather because last time we were struggling to stay conscious. Well, it was very late at night. It's daytime now.
I felt there was pressure because it is such a good movie and a lot of people have commented on this movie and shared videos about their opinions, and I just felt like we didn't do it justice. So.
Yes, so we hope that you have enjoyed our chat. We're really just chit-chatting here.
Yeah.
Our hope is to get through these movies for a personal achievement for the two of us. There's 100 top movies of all time. We hope that you'll join us. You'll click like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff that people do. But yeah, we're waffling a bit, but we'll get there. We'll have a system. We hope you've enjoyed hanging out with us wherever you're off to, wherever you're listening from or watching or whatever. And The Godfather is a great movie. I've said it over and over again. I recommend everybody, if you haven't watched it, definitely watch this movie. You will enjoy it, unless you don't like gangster movies and you just want to, I don't know, then watch Free Guy. That's a good movie. I like that. You'll probably enjoy that. If you really don't like gangster movies, you might like Free Guy. That's not on this list, trust me. Which I'm not mocking Free Guy. I really liked it.
I don't know it.
Nicholas needs to watch Free Guy as well. You didn't like that? You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, it's good. You like it.
Yeah.
It's Ryan. It's one of the Ryans, not the one from Barbie movie. What's the Ryan Reynolds?
Okay.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. So this week, that's us signing off. We are, how many we're at with number 3. That was number 3 on our list.
Number 3, join us next week for Gone with the Wind.
Yeah. Gone with the Wind. Now, we're gonna discuss Gone with the Wind. It's a 4-hour movie. We're actually gonna do an 8-hour podcast on the Gone with No, we will see you guys soon for Gone with the Wind. It'll be fun.
All right. Take care.